Hello, hello, and welcome to Bla Bla Black Sheep, a weekly yarny podcast where I, Sarah Korth of SEK Handmade, answer your yarny questions. Welcome. I am so glad you're here. My friends, I've noticed a little something. Way back when I first started this podcast, way back, like it's been years and years. But when I first started the podcast, one of the questions that was asked was, what other podcasts do you recommend? And so a while back I gave some very traditional podcasts, like audio podcasts that I listened to. But what I really wanted to do was curate some yarn podcasts for you to listen to and or view like this. And I went on the hunt, and I have to tell you guys, I was a bit disheartened for two reasons. One, there are not a lot of crochet specific podcasts out there. They're mostly knitters. And two, many podcasts are not releasing consistently. So like I would find a crochet podcast and I'd be like, oh, this is so fun. And like their last episode was 2 years ago, or they like release a couple episodes and then they don't release for like 6 months. And then, but the last one was like 8 months ago. So are they going to do more podcasts or not? I don't know. And I don't want to send you someplace where you have like a very limited supply of podcasts. So all of that to say, I am still on the search. I have some good yarn podcasts, but I'm still on the search for some really good crochet specific podcasts. If you have a suggestion of one for me to check out. And I will say there were a couple that I looked at that I was like, not really my vibe. I only want to share things that I would like as well. So if you have one you think I would like, comment below. I'd love to go check it out. But all of that to say that if you are enjoying having a crochet specific podcast and you know of someone who might also enjoy having a crochet specific podcast, send them my way. I would really, really appreciate it. All right. What am I wearing today? Friends, it is the end of December and I am in a short sleeve shirt, and here is why. I am so excited to share with you my latest 2 patterns that have come out at the same time. And they are more of my Waylen collection, shall I call it? Be fancy. So let me back up. The very first Waylen pattern I released was my Waylen hat. And I released this for my Crochet Cancer Challenge hat in 2022, so last year. And immediately I thought that has to be a set. It's so cozy. And I got started and then I got distracted. Oh, you guys. And one of the things I got distracted by was my Waylen bags. So, I made the project bag and the notions bag that matched the Waylen stitch pattern. This is a 2-in-1 pattern, so you get both of these. And so then I finally got it done. Thank you to the wonderful testers who helped me follow through with this. And so what I'm releasing is the Waylen Cozy, because this is the great first step. First of all, I have to tell you, this stitch, everybody sees it and says, oh, I don't know, that looks too hard. It's not too hard. It's not too hard. Because then I have other people who take the leap of faith and work the pattern and go, oh my gosh, it was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. Your instructions made it really clear, and success. And that's the exact feeling I want you to have with all of my patterns. I want you to go in a little bit like, I don't know. And then I'm there to help you along the way. And at the end, I want you to feel like, yes, I did it. So if you're feeling a little unsure, the cozy is a perfect place to start. I ran out of my yarn. I did I did this in Galloway yarn. So I have the cowl, the hat, and a project bag. So I don't have a cozy in this Galloway yarn. I runned out. But I do have a cozy that matches my project bag, and I have a small Notions bag in these exact colors, and 3 skeins of yarn got me all 3 of these. My little bags at the yarn shop for display. Anyways, they don't need to match. So love the cozies, perfect place to start. Once you get a cozy or 2 under your belt, then the next great place to go is the bags, the project bags. These, by the way, sew free, no sewing necessary, but fully lined. I'm obsessed. Gonna be making more like that, that's for sure. Or the cowl. So let's talk about the cowl, because this is the other pattern that is a brand new. The reason I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt today is because, friends, I live in Wisconsin and it gets really, really cold. But I feel firmly that it is so important to get outside and breathe fresh air and feel the sunshine, even if it's filtered through clouds, on my face. It helps my sanity. And so I need what I would call an outdoor cowl. A lot of my cowls go both ways. Like, you can wear them inside and you can wear them outside. I took my pictures for this in the summertime and I was like, oh, I'm so hot. Because this is a true outdoor cowl. It is thick. This fabric is so squishy. And it's so cozy. And the ribbing on the top and the bottom, or the bottom and the top, however you want to wear it, tucks it in so you can pull it up and like make full connection between, my favorite when it's real cold outside is that I like a cowl that can be pulled up super high and connect, because I'll have hair back here to keep me warm. So I need the cowl to connect and then my hat to come down and cover to the cowl. And then I put sunglasses on so that all I have showing is maybe a little bit of forehead and maybe some of my mouth, which I might just tuck into my cowl depending on how cold it is. So this pattern has all the customizations in it too. So you can choose, and if you go look at the projects by my testers, you can see that they have chosen some different color combinations. You can work it all in one color. You can work it in like a gradient yarn so that you get lots of colors without ends to weave in. I wanted mine to match my hat, so that's why I chose what I chose. And then I think it's fun because it's like 2 different cowls. I can either have the purple side up or I can have the gray side up. How great is that? So I'm going to put this on and we'll see how long I last because it is super cozy. So what I'm going to do to wear this inside, which, you know, if you're a cold person or if it's cold enough where you're at, maybe wearing it inside would be good. The other thing that is customizable through the pattern is there are tips and tricks on how to adjust the height of it. It's a pretty tall cowl. Or how to adjust the circumference of it. So you could make it shorter and wider, and it could be more of like a decorative fashion accessory rather than a keep me super cozy when it's below freezing outside. So I'm just going to put it on. Just whack myself in the mouth. And you can see it's super cozy. But what I'm going to do to try to wear it inside is I'm going to take this top part and I'm going to fold it in and down. And then I'm even going to fold the bottom up so that it's more just like the height of my neck. Now it's double, so it's extra warm, but it's a little shorter. And since I don't need it to cover my neck, like my nose, it doesn't have to. I hope I just didn't get my lipstick all over the inside of that. But I also like that then we see all the colors when it's folded over like that too. So, all the Waylen patterns are available, and I'm going to give you all a discount on all of them. So December 27th, which is the day that this is releasing, through December 31st, Happy New Year's, I am going to offer you 20% off on Ravelry and Etsy. All the links below to all the patterns. And so you're going to get 20% off on the hat, the cowl, the cozy, the bag. All of them. And the code for that is SOCOZY. SOCOZY, all in caps. That'll be down below too. You can just copy it and paste it into where you put your coupon codes for those websites, and you'll be good to go. So there you go. That's what I'm going to wear. I'm going to wear my new Waylen Cowl today. I thought about wearing the hat too, and then I thought I might pass out of heat exhaustion. Also why I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt today. So I was like, some part of me has to be temperature regulated. Okay. Did I say? I don't know if I said. These yarns, these woolier yarns and like the solid yarns are Galloway. Galloway is a very reasonably priced, very nice woolly wool. I would say it's not scratchy, but it's more on the rustic side. So if you're someone who's quite sensitive to that, you may not find this great, but I think it's going to keep me so warm because, you know, that woolly wool is just so cozy. And then the cozies and this project bag are all in one of my faves, Malabrigo Rios. So there you go. What is bringing me joy, you guys? Pine scented candles. I maybe think that I said this before, and you know what? I don't even care. When up until a few years ago, it feels like a few years ago, but it was probably quite a few. It was my family tradition growing up that we would go out and cut down a Christmas tree. And so to me, part of the experience of the holiday season is that scent. And now we have a fig tree, and so there is no scent. And so I have found these, it's a specific pine scent. It's not just any pine scent. I have found these candles at Target. I am very excited that they were out last year. They've come back with the same scent this year. Now that Christmas is over, I should really go see if I can get a couple on clearance just in case they don't come out with it next year, because I do love them that much. I'm actually looking at my table, which is right in front of me, and I brought in a candle so that I could burn it in here while I was talking to you so I could enjoy the lovely pine scent that is making me so happy. And I'm looking, I have two of them in here now. So I like to, we have, the way our house is set up, it's a circle. And so I like to light one in my office, light one in the kitchen, light one in the dining room, light one in the living room. And then no matter where you walk in there, you smell this delicious scent. And it makes me so happy. I'm thrilled by it. Okay, let's talk small businesses. At first I was like, I don't think I have many small businesses to share. And then I started rolling and I was like, oh, never mind. I have quite a few. So the first thing I want to share with you is my earrings, which are kind of getting covered up by my cowl, but that's okay. These adorable little earrings are from Pickled Pottery. So they are actually ceramic pottery, and I love them. I have to tell you a little story. I met the owner of Pickled Pottery, Jennifer, at the Appleton Arts Festival this summer. She was lovely. She's from the Madison area, I believe. And so I bought a couple of her pairs of earrings. I shared them, and she was like, "Thank you so much for sharing." And she and I got talking. She was sweet as can be. And I wore my earrings, a set of the earrings I bought this summer, out and about, much like I am now. I had a cowl on and the earrings, and she makes her own. I don't know this for sure, but from the way they look, I assume she makes her own findings. And so the hooks are really nice and hooked. So I didn't think for a second that I would have any trouble with them falling out until I did. I went to the bathroom in Target and I went to wash my hands. See how that raises my cowl up? And my cowl pushed, I have backs on these so it won't happen, pushed the earring out. The earring fell into the ceramic sink in the bathroom, and ceramic on ceramic equals shattering. My earring broke. So I messaged Jennifer and I was like, "Hey, any chance you could remake me a partner for my other earring? That's fine." And she was like, "Absolutely." And so I was like, "No hurry." And she remade me the earring, and actually she made me a set. And then I ordered these because she was so nice and because I love her earrings. So go support her. I think the last time I shared, and I think this is probably still the same, she has quite a few earrings in her shop, but they aren't all under her earring tab, like her earring section in her Etsy shop. So she doesn't have like thousands of things in her Etsy shop. So scroll through all the pages so that you don't miss out on any of the earrings. She also has necklaces too. And I don't know, you'll have to check it out. Maybe some other cute pottery things. So love it. Oh, I just set this down and now I'm going to bring it back up. I wanted to share with you that on the mug that this cozy is on is a handmade mug. This is from Kunzler Studios. Yes, Kunzler Studios. It's in Des Moines, Iowa, where I am from. And I went and visited them with my dad when I was home at Thanksgiving time, and got some Christmas presents and met some of the staff. I don't know if they were the owners. It seems to be owned by a family, but then they also have a studio space. And so they sell pottery and ceramics from local artists, but then they also offer those artists a studio space, which is so cool because I feel like that's a big hurdle for becoming an artist a lot of times, is having a space and materials to do your art, especially when you're a ceramicist, because I can only imagine how expensive a kiln is. So I thought that was so cool. So check them out. They do have a website. It'll be linked below. And if you're ever in Des Moines, look them up. It's a really fun shop to go peruse. I had to stop myself from buying all the things. I'm actually recording, not that you noticed or cared. I'm recording a little later today because I went and ran some errands beforehand. And so I had my coffee in my to-go mug. And at first I was like, well, maybe I should pour it in a handmade. And then I was like, no, because A, this is real life. I don't always drink out of a handmade mug, and I can't always take them on the go with me. And so I have this guy, and I want to show you my stickers. The small businesses are the stickers that are on them. So Woodland Stitchcraft, that's my sticker because I'm a weirdo. Woodland Stitchcraft, Woodland Stitchcraft. from the aquarium in Chicago when we went to visit. This was a gift from my sister. And then this guy is by an artist, and their Etsy shop is apartment 2 cards, and they have cards in there too, and lots of fun stickers. So I'll link that below as well. And then my shirt, which says minding my own small business, which I think is hilarious, is from She Show. I'll look, and if they still have this exact shirt, I'll link to that. Otherwise, you can check out what other shirts they have in stock, and maybe find something fun. Announcements. Okay. WIP Wrap Up is almost here. We are days away. It will start on January 1st. We will be sharing the challenge of wrapping up our WIPs in community on a private chat group on Instagram and on a Facebook page, private Facebook group. I'll link to those below. You can just message me on Instagram and ask to join in. I don't know what I was going to say. Sign up for my email list and they'll all be in there too. You'll get the reminder for when it starts right away. We're gonna gather up our WIPs. We're gonna share all the tips and encouragement for knocking out some of the things that we didn't get done last year, so that we can start off the year with a sense of accomplishment and kind of a clean slate, so that we can move forward feeling real good about all we've done. So it's a great way to start the year. It's a fun community event, and it's a great way to have some accountability for yourself so that you knock some stuff out. So no matter how many times they do it, I always end up with plenty of WIPs that need finishing when it comes back around again. So I won't be in there like, I only have 2 WIPs. I have way more than that. And we already talked about the Waylen Cowl and Cozy being available now. So there you go. Let's answer some questions. Yay! Question number 1. I always think I'll remember every project I make, but each year I forget a few. I'd love to be able to look back on my year and remember all my projects. Any ideas? Yes! Okay, so over the years, I've gathered several ways to keep track of my projects, and some of them have been super successful for me, and some of them have been a real flop. And I think the main thing is your personality and what is satisfying to you, if that makes sense. If the way you log them or the way you keep track of them, logging them sounds so like official and like punitive isn't the right word, but like you're doing it because you have to, not because you want to. Sucks all the joy out of it. So keeping track of your projects needs to be something that is satisfying for you, so you'll be encouraged to do it. That it's like the little cherry on the top of your sundae when a project is finished, that's like your final official, like, boop, I did it. And it needs to be simple enough that it brings you joy and isn't like, one more thing to do before my project is officially finished, like waving in ends. And I think that that's different things for different people. Some people will like something like quick and easy, no detail. Other people will really like something that's a little more in depth. So I have several suggestions, I guess is what I'm saying. The first one is my project tracker. I have released this for the last 2 years and I've updated it and I'm releasing it again. This is a little ebook. It is completely free. I'm going to put a link under this question in the show notes below. All you need to do, even if you are already a part of my email list, all you need to do is put your email in there and it will get automatically emailed to you. And then you just click the link in the email and it'll automatically download. This project tracker has 3 resources for you. It has 2 graphs and 1 list. The 2 graphs are just to mark your number of projects that you complete each month. So I would use it like a bar graph probably, or like a dot graph. That would still be a bar graph, I think. I'm not a mathy person. So in January you would I finished 1 project. I put a dot or a rectangle on my January spot, and as you add more projects, you add more to your graph, depending on if you are a few project person a month or a many project person a month kind of person. One of the graphs goes by 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The other one goes by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so that you can fit more projects on it. And then there's a list. So there's a place for you to write out your specific projects, because that one's just going to show you like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I finished 14 projects in January, which you could do if you join WIP Wrap Up. If the satisfaction of knowing how many you did, and if you have a good enough memory that when you realize 14, you can like pull out of your brain those 14 things, that's awesome. But if you want something so that you have more specifics, there's also a list where you can just write down the date. Now I'm trying to think what all it has on it. I think it definitely has the date and then a spot for you to write a little description. So it could either be cowl for Aunt Linda, or blanket with the bunnies on it, or it could be Waylen Cowl by Sarah Korth in Malabrigo yarn. However detailed and specific you want to get. Here's the thing. It's your tracker, so use it however it works best for you. So, link in the description. Download it, use it as you will. The great thing about the list is it's got so many lines to it, but when you run out of lines, you just print another page and you've got more lines to fill in. So there you go. My second suggestion is the second thing that I tried to do. I will confess, I have tried to do 3 ways, keeping track of my projects by month. So every finished object I write down what I finished. I've also been keeping my yarn bands, and I just think that that's fun. When I look back through here, some of them I'm like, oh, that's that project and that's this project. And some of them I'm like, I wonder what I used that for. So again, depending on your memory, depends on, and your desires. If you just want to be able to look at this and say like, wow, look at all of that yarn I used this year. I mean, because I'm constantly adding to my stash, a lot of times my stash feels static. It doesn't feel like I'm going through my stash. But then when I look at all these yarn bands, I'm like, yeah, I used a lot of yarn this year. And then I just bought a pretty box, which as you can see, doesn't close. So maybe I should have bought a taller box. But when there's not a lot of, when there are fewer yarn bands in there, it does close. Oh, it almost closes. So I just have this sitting on a shelf, and every time I finish up with a yarn band, I put it in there. And that's not even all of them, because I have yarn bands from my Advent shawl. I got a lot of yarn bands this year. So that's another suggestion. If you want like a little memory, I just keep them for a year. And then I recycle them because it could really get out of control. So that's an idea. And then something that my friend Ashley did 2 years ago, and I saw her post something on it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so fun and genius. I'm going to do that. What she did was she saved all of the ends she clipped off throughout the year. Now, this is a little hard to see because of my, oh, that's better. I have this fun jar that has a honeycomb pattern on it because, you know, I love bees. And so this just sits on, it's currently sitting on my dresser. I have an antique dresser from my grandma that I store yarn in because nobody else gets to touch it. And this just sits on top of it. And when I snip off ends, instead of tossing them, I put them in here. And at the end of the year, which is coming up, I'm going to count all of them. I'm going to feel real accomplished. Because you can see there are a lot of ends in there. You know, you can have, it's just a different measurement, right? You can have a project that only has 2 colors, so 2 yarn bands, that you end up, because of the way they alternate, snipping off, you know, 10 or 15 ends. And since end weaving in is one of those things that's kind of a chore, it's felt very satisfying to see that jar fill up. And I don't know what I'm going to do with the yarn ends. My local yarn shop keeps the yarn that they snip, like as their winding yarn and stuff, and they use it for stuffing, like amigurumi and stuff like that. So I may see if Sarah wants those. Or I don't know. I feel weird throwing them away, though if I hadn't been doing that, I would have individually probably thrown them away as I was working on them. So I don't know. We'll see. And then my last suggestion is to use some technology. So if you are not on the website Ravelry, you should be. There are just, as a designer, I feel like it's a great place for me to sell my patterns. But I was on there long before I was a designer because as a yarn crafter, it is just a really well thought out tool. There are so many things I could talk about on there, and we'll maybe get to those later. But I want to tell you about something that I think will help track your finished objects. And that is their feature of creating projects. And I have a project tutorial video that I will link below on how to create a project. But, and maybe I'll put a picture somewhere. If you scroll down to the bottom of your project, so if you already have some projects made on that are connected to your Ravelry page profile, at the very bottom, for all of the projects that you've entered in, how many yards you have used, they add that all up and then show you at the bottom. So many projects containing so many yards. Now, I personally have a whole bunch of projects that I did not put the yardage in for. But I think what I'm going to do is this year, I'm going to be real conscientious about putting all my projects in with the yardage. And I'm going to write in my planner on January. Maybe it's smarter to put it in December. Either way, it doesn't matter. It'll be in there. But I'm going to note what my yardage is now so that I can, okay, I'll double check, but I think it also tells you how many projects. So you could see at the end of the year, if you note how many projects you have and the number of yardage that you have listed so far, which could be 0. then if this year you're conscientious about adding the projects that you finished and adding the yardage that you used, even just an estimate, if you're not a person who's not a designer, you might not need to know exactly how much. And you could just put the estimated yardage from the pattern in and say, like, I didn't run out of yarn, so probably close. And then at the end of the year, or even throughout the year, you can keep track of how those numbers increase and change. And how fun is that? I mean, to be able to see that you used, you know, even 1,000 yards of yarn in the year, that's a lot of yarn. So I think, like I said at the beginning, depending on the kind of person you are, if you're the kind of person that really likes technology, or if you're a person who would rather sit down with pen and paper, if you're the kind of person who likes to have a little collection of things, or you're the kind of person that this collection of things makes you cringe, that you're like, oh, yay, one more thing to set out on my, you know, shelf that I'm going to have to dust, then, you know, pick and choose, do what's best for you. There you go. I hope that's helpful. And I hope you find a method that works. If you, like my friend Ashley, who showed me the collecting your ends that you've snipped off, have an idea that I didn't share, share it in the comments below. I would love to expand my repertoire of things to collect to remind me of my projects. It'd be wonderful. Okay, question number 2. When I first started crocheting, I bought every skein of yarn that was on sale at, they specified the store, I'm just going to say the big box stores, even if it wasn't really my style. Now that I've been crocheting for a while, I'd like to pare down my stash to only yarn I really love. Any ideas of what I can do with the yarn I won't use? Okay. First of all, let me say, I did the exact same thing. There was a point in our marriage where Brian literally said these words to me. You don't have to use every coupon they send. I felt like if I was using a coupon, it was a good deal. And I've been to yarn stores and like looked in the clearance section and been like, I mean, I'm not in love with it, but it's like $2, right? And when you first are starting off, I think a lot of times there's the, I'm going to say misperception, which you can disagree with me, that you shouldn't invest in really nice supplies until you've had some practice. And so I think the gathering of inexpensive yarn is normal. So I wouldn't feel bad about that. But I applaud you for looking around and honestly saying, I don't think I'm going to use all that. So I have a few suggestions. My first suggestion is, and maybe you've already done this and you don't even want this advice, but I'm going to tell it to you anyways. I would really encourage you to gather all of your stash together. And that may mean, depending on your house situation, pet and child situation, ideally, it would be great to gather it all in one room and then shut the door. So that pets and small hands, if you have those, can't bother it. Because depending on the size of your stash, this could take a little time. So I actually did this last year because I looked at my stash and I was like, I'm making a shift to using yarns I really love, not just yarns that are inexpensive. And so there's some of this stuff that I literally got just because it was inexpensive, and I'm just not going to use it. And so it's time to pass it on. So gather all of your yarn together so you can really see what you have. And then I would do just a quick snap judgment go through. This is 100% not the question you asked. But I'm down this rabbit trail and I'm going forward. Snap judgment. Love it, don't love it, love it, don't love it, blah, 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 until you've gone through everything. And then I would see what you can see and say like, oh, I've really pared this down to a reasonable stash. Or, oh, there's almost nothing left, which could be okay. Or that pile of keep is still too big and you maybe need to go through it again and be a little more critical. Once you have an amount of yarn that you're ready to pass on, and this is another reason I would really encourage you to do this in one fell swoop, because donating or passing on the yarn that you're not going to use, to me, is the hardest part of this process. And so you're talking to the lady who in a corner of her bedroom has a pile of clothes that don't fit my kids anymore, or like purses I'm never going to use, just waiting to be put into my car and taken to a donation place. It's a real mental block for me. So if I were you, I would really want to move the yarn along all at once and just be done with it. So that's why I'm encouraging that. But once you have the yarn that you won't use, I would encourage, so when we lived in Ohio, I ran the church's knitting and crocheting social group. And so we would get together once a month. Sometimes we would have a specific cause. Sometimes we wouldn't. And we would just work for charity. We made prayer shawls. We made one lovely, lovely woman would make blankets, little blankets for all the babies that got baptized at our church, which was just the sweetest thing ever. But a lot of times we accepted donations of yarn because some of our knitters and crocheters, I mean, a baby's blanket worth of yarn is still a lot of yarn. So it was helpful financially to some of the people to be able to make out of donated yarn. But I will say a lot of times there was not much thought put into yarn before it was donated to us. And so we would get bags of yarn, and some of it would be like, you know, great Aunt Velma just died and 20-year-old grandkids, you know, or whoever is going through the house and she's got all this yarn, and it's real old yarn. And so some of it would be so scratchy we couldn't see using it for anything that would be comfortable to donate. We tried to keep as much as we could. Other times it was acrylic and it was melted in some places. So I guess I would say don't pass on anything that isn't of decent quality. Just bite the bullet and trash that if you have any of that. It sounds like you're probably new enough that that's not necessarily a problem, but be honest. Be realistic, I guess. So here are my ideas of ways that once you've got your amount of yarn that you're ready to pass on, places to pass on to. Okay, so first of all, I would say you need to decide, do you want to make some money off of this, or do you just want it out of your house? Which, fair enough, either way. You could look at that and say that is hundreds and hundreds of dollars, which was my case. And you could say, if I can sell some of this, then I can buy more yarn that I would really enjoy using. Or you may say, my top priority is just to get this the heck out of my house. If you decide that you would like to make some money off of it, depending on if you have some sort of social platform, you can try to destash on the social platform. Or Facebook Marketplace is a great place and easy. You don't have to have a storefront of any kind to sell stuff on there. It's kind of like a giant online garage sale. You need to keep in mind, are you wanting to ship to people or not? And if you are, How are you going to charge for that? Because I don't recommend eating a bunch of shipping. Sometimes that can be more expensive than what you're shipping. So, but I would do something like that. And eBay, I don't know. I've never sold anything on Craigslist. I don't know if that's still a thing. I've done a bunch of stuff on Facebook Marketplace though, and it's been great. I made a lot of money back on baby clothes and accessories and toys years ago when I decided we were definitely done with babies. I haven't tried yarn though, so I don't know how great that would go. But that's my idea for destashing. Otherwise, places to gift the yarn. If you know someone who is in a place that you were all those years back, who is maybe new to the craft and either can't afford to buy a bunch of yarn or doesn't even know what to get, you could gift it to them. That's what I did with a bunch of my stash that I wasn't going to use. Teaching classes at my local yarn shop, I meet a lot of people, and I met this really, really lovely woman who just in passing mentioned to me a couple times that she uses crocheting to relax, but she kind of had to pace herself because if she crocheted too fast, she'd run out of yarn before she could afford to buy more. Very in passing. And when I was like, I have all this yarn that I want to get rid of, she came to mind. I let her go through everything and just take it before I found other places to donate. And she took a big chunk of it. And it made me feel great because it was out of my house, and it made her feel great because she got a whole bunch of yarn that she could use and not have to stress about the cost of it. And it made me feel great because I love when people crochet. Other places to look into, and these are all going to be like local things that you're going to have to suss out. Schools, sometimes, especially elementary school art teachers, but then on the other end, sometimes middle school and high school art teachers. Okay, sometimes elementary school art teachers will take it because they will do like weaving and yarn art or stuff like that with their kids. And so to have yarn to do that with, they love. Middle school and high school art teachers will sometimes teach their kids to knit or crochet. And so having that yarn, and the kids not having to buy it and them not having to use their school funds to buy it, it can be really helpful. So reaching out to schools might be a great place. As I mentioned before, our church had a knit and crochet group, and we took donations of yarn. So that might be a good place to pass it along to. You would just need to reach out or maybe, make some phone calls. Church secretaries are generally very nice and incredibly knowledgeable. You could call the art museum. If you have an art museum that's local to you and they do kids programming, when we lived in Ohio, our art museum did lots of like toddler and kids programming, and they might, just like an elementary school art teacher, they might do some string art classes, some little like weaving-ish sorts of things, and they might take it. I am now thinking of another thing that you could do, but this doesn't get it out of your house. And that is, just because you don't love it doesn't mean someone else wouldn't love it in finished form. So another friend of mine, Ashley, is powering through her stuff by making things to give to charity. So she's made hats and scarves and blankets and stuff and passed them along to places like Project Linus or local homeless shelters. She did a whole bunch of soap savers, which is just like a little pouch for your soap. She did a whole bunch of those and put the soap inside of them and donated those to a shelter in her local area. And so if you might enjoy making it into something but wouldn't want to keep the finished project, obviously maybe there's a balance there. Maybe you keep a few things to make for charity and maybe you pass the majority along. But that was just another idea that popped into my head. there you go. I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for joining me today. It is always my joy to chat with you. If you have a question, there's a link in the description below. Hit the more, find all the links, shop all the small businesses, ask me a question. I'd love to chat about what you want to know about, and like, subscribe, share, all the things. Thank you again for joining me today, and happy crafting.